last week, Nancy, we covered a whole range of issues, and one of the stories I ended up using from the Newtown Bee on the air was the story about the rate hikes being raised for some out-of-towners using the facilities at the community center.
Right.
And that got us thinking on the air about how are not just, places like the community center run by the town of Newtown faring, but how are businesses faring this, a year later in this new world that we live in? What are you hearing from not just advertisers, but people on the street? How are small businesses in Newtown faring?
Well, most of what we hear is through our advertisers or our lack of advertisers, and it is because businesses are still struggling. To lose that many months of income because fewer people are comfortable coming into a small business, or some of their staff is ill, that sort of thing. But it's been very hard. As a matter of fact, we did hear just this week from one salon in town who said, despite the fact that they followed all the protocols for a hair salon, they still find that clients are a little dicey about whether they want to come in or not. So salons are suffering anywhere where you have that kind of close contact, especially. It's been very difficult for the small businesses in town. We do try to promote, especially with Valentine's Day coming up, that we have so many businesses in town that are valuable to our residents and safe to go in. And if they practice safe protocols themselves, wearing a mask, making sure that they stay physically distant from other shoppers, we have a lot to offer here in town, and our businesses really need that support.
And you mentioned some of the protocol they had to institute to be in compliance. That comes with a cost. That costs money too.
Very much so, depending on what kind of a business you are. Some places may have had to invest in plastic shields to keep their help safe from interactions between the shopper and the person who's checking them out, like you'll see in a lot of the grocery stores, for instance. Other places, it's for hair salons. For a while, they were required to have disposable aprons or bibs, whatever you want to call them, they put around you when you get your hair cut. And, that's very costly. Masks, if you have to wear a mask all the time when you're working with somebody, you can't use the same mask all the time. You have to have a variety of them, whether they're reusable or whether they're disposable. So yeah, it's very expensive, and a small business doesn't have a lot to go with. We know that here at the Newtown Bee because we're also a small family-owned business, and we have had to implement things to keep our staff safe.
I've made a concerted effort to shop downtown, and I have to admit, I'm even surprised at the level of options that we have. I don't have to go to Danbury all the time.
No, you don't. I mean, we've got things for people who need automotive care and little supplies for your car, if you're fixing your car yourself, that sort of thing. We've got chocolatiers, we've got gift shops that have amazing, really high quality kinds of gifts, cards, a lot of little things. We've even got in Sandy Hook, we've got some clothing stores. So there are a lot of options here with our small businesses that are just so eager to have clients come in again.
We survived the snowstorm.
We did. Snow was a big story this week. We haven't had a lot of it this year. So, getting over a foot was quite the event for us.
Talk to us about how we did. I mean, in removing the stuff.
In removing the stuff, we did great. Our guys, we've got a wonderful story, front page story this week about the recap of the storm, and talking to members of the highway department. They were out since something like 2 a.m. on Sunday, prepping the roads, plowing. I mean, these guys worked straight through until all 275 miles of Newtown's roads are cleared. So we did a great job. We really did.
I live off what some would consider the beaten path. I cannot believe how many times the plow came through and cleared our street. I mean, it was a really nice surprise when we moved here last year to see how quickly it's dealt with and efficiently.
Yes, efficiently, and especially considering how many miles of road this town has. We're a big town. Not population wise, but square footage wise, I forget, we're very high up there in the whole state.
Someone once told me geographically it was the largest municipality. Is that possible?
It is possible. I know we're way up there.
We're going to study this for next week, folks.
Yeah, we are. Okay, I'm going to go back and look at my numbers.
So they did a great job. What else are we talking about in the Bee?
Well, one of the things I think is really important to stress is Super Bowl Sunday is coming up, and our health director is really urging people to not have parties. Keep it to whoever lives in your household directly. It's 1 year that we have to, hopefully 1 year, things are looking better. But she's very adamant about the fact that we don't want the Super Bowl to become a super spreader. Right now, we're up to 60 deaths in our town. We are having fewer, we're stable so far as the number of people who are testing positive. That's not skyrocketing or anything, but people in our town are dying from COVID. We don't want to spread it. We don't know how these variants are going to be affecting people either, even those who've gotten vaccinated. But the good news is that we had 2 clinics last weekend for the seniors, and they were able to give out 170 vaccinations into the arms of people. And starting yesterday, today, and Saturday, more clinics were scheduled, and they hope to get another 100 people vaccinated. So that's really good. Our first selectman says that would be like 60% of our senior population.
That's fantastic. And I've heard, my ear is to the street, and I've heard a couple of promising things, especially in that nursing home situation. And that is that, I've heard the term herd immunity used, which is wild. I can't believe that, but they're saying that potentially the virus has been, the tide has turned in nursing homes.
The tide has turned in nursing homes. And one in, not a nursing home, but a Churchill Village here in Newtown has actually they've done phenomenally well with keeping their residents safe and keeping their staff safe and getting people vaccinated. So that's very hopeful, because as that happens, that means that our older population is going to be able to once again have in-person visits from family. And that is so crucial to health.
We had a doctor on the air who said that is probably the isolation from COVID was as dangerous as the disease itself for a lot of these old folks.
I believe it. If you are wheelchair bound or in ill health and dependent on only seeing people who come to see you, and that can't happen anymore, it's devastating. It's just not good. We're people who need social interaction. It's painful. It's painful even for just us regular folks.
You mentioned Churchill Village. I have to tell you, every time I walk downtown and walk by it, it is really such a nice, handsome looking facility, and seems to be so efficiently run.
They are having great success with getting residents in and taking care of them, and it's, hopefully we'll be seeing more of those residents out and about once this thing is under control.
Well, they're your neighbor, right?
They are our neighbor.
Yeah,
they're just down the street from us, and we have a really good relationship with them. They're wonderful people, very kind, very, very community oriented.
Yeah, in it for the right reasons. Now, this is normally the time of year that I would be going to hockey clinics up in the Berkshires with my nephews and doing fun things with my daughter and the other kids, and that's not happening. What's going on with the kids right now? There's vacations coming up, right, from school. Does that?
It's pretty minimal. I mean, they just have 2 days, February 15th and 16th, that they have for a February vacation this year. The good news, again, there is some good news that happens out there, is that our winter sports are by and large back in our school system, which means that our readers are going to be seeing more and more stories by our sports editor, finding out what these kids are up to. You've got basketball players who are willing to play basketball wearing masks because they want to play. So you're going to be seeing basketball. You're going to be seeing hockey players who evidently will be wearing masks underneath their masks. Kids are just eager to get back out there and take part in the athletics that they love. And I think that our readers are going to be excited to read about those things.
I learned in the Newtown Bee that something like swimming is considered a low-risk sport. What are some of the higher-risk sports?
Well, you aren't going to be seeing wrestling. You aren't going to be seeing dance and cheerleading competitions where there's a lot of close physical contact. Cheerleaders and dancers may be performing at the basketball games, but not doing the kind of actions that we've seen in the past, just so that they can stay safe as well. Wrestling, well, that's tough not to get close.
Yeah. Nancy, what else is going on in the schools before we move on from that?
Well, one of the things is that we've addressed this week is that a couple of weeks ago there was an incident at the high school with a racial slur written on a bathroom wall. And Newtown High School is addressing that incident and hoping to prevent others through educational lessons for the high school students. And they're hoping to move towards a more racially sensitive school environment. It's something that hasn't been talked about a lot in Newtown. People haven't really accepted the fact that there have been incidences throughout the years in our schools that make people of color uncomfortable and hurt people's feelings and are threatening in what they say. So our educators are helping to educate our students.
I feel like in town, at least the police department, I feel like was tried to get out ahead of this back over the summer when there were, all the upheaval going on around the country. Am I remembering that correctly? Didn't the police department hold some kind of a unity gathering and outreach efforts were made?
Right. As a matter of fact, the Newtown Bee did a series of diversity discussions videos that are on our YouTube channel, and one of them was with the police. And coming up next week, we were going to have a fairly extensive story about the latest police commission meeting in which they do address some of the things that are required by law now, in which our police department has we already do a lot of things that are now being required of police departments. And, trying to, again, it's all about education. It's all about relearning and rethinking what we think we know about diversity and about race.
And the timing with Black History Month couldn't be better. Nancy, what else is in the Bee this week?
Oh my goodness.
Which is available right now, by the way.
Yes, it is. It's been out on the street waiting for people to buy it since yesterday afternoon.
Picked it up at the Big Y.
Good for you. We have the Connecticut Mom of the Year, who happens to be from Newtown. So we're pretty proud about that and glad that she was willing to speak to us for an article. The budgets, of course, are in the news. The school has presented a budget that it's over $80 million for education. And surprisingly enough, there was no public input at the meeting where the public was invited to speak to the Board of Education about, what's going on? Why is it so high? Why is it not higher? Whatever they wanted to say. There was no public input at all. Surprisingly, I don't know if people don't want to do virtual or. I
was going to say that's not a topic people are usually quiet on.
No, it's usually a huge public outcry every year, and I can only think that it's because people are just not comfortable doing Zoom meetings. The municipal budget is around $43 million this year, and all of these are being passed on now to our Board of Finance and our Legislative Council. And come April, we'll be voting on that budget. So this is the time. If people have something to say about the money and how it's being spent in our town or how it will be spent, you got to get in touch with these board and commission members.
Anything else you'd like to add before I ask you your Super Bowl pick?
My Super Bowl pick. First, you got to tell me, who are the two that are playing this year?
Oh, listen, all you have to say is 2 words. Tom Brady. There you go.
Okay, Tom Brady. I'm with Tom Brady. No. I always go for the underdog, so I may have to go with the Chiefs.
All right. Nancy, anything you'd like to add?
Nothing. I just hope that, if people who like to read news online, if they'll go to newtownbee.com, we update every day. We get our breaking news up there. Please, consider subscribing, because there's so much in our print edition that just can't get online.
And it feels nice to have a paper in your hands. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, a big paper too.
A big one, yes. Now, if you look in the comment section of this YouTube video, folks, you'll see not only information on subscribing, but also I've linked the Newtown Bee's YouTube channel to my Park City Productions YouTube channel as well.
Right. And in the Newtown Bee, if they're reading the Newtown Bee, they're going to find the link to your Park City Productions.
Right. Nancy, we look forward to next week, and we'll talk to you then.
Great. Thank you so much, John.
All right. Thank you.